Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Taliesin McKnight. Today's topic is I.N.R.I as a magical and alchemical formula. Now, first of all, what is a magical formula? A magical formula is a word or phrase that represents a complex idea and ideology that you could take a complex metaphysical concept and represent it by a word or a phrase, so that instead of going into a deep philosophical thing to come up with, it's used to represent a metaphysical concept. Now, I.N.R.I has been used as a magical and alchemical formula. It is an occult formula. It is a word that represents a lofty metaphysical concept. This is done for several different reasons. It's done in order to just name a concept, essentially, and it is also done in order to conceal occult knowledge. It is done so that knowledge is hidden to the uninitiated, so that things like this are used by secret societies to hide or conceal occult knowledge from the uninitiated. It is used by those that have understood certain occult mysteries from the profane. The same thing is done in the Kabbalah. Now, I.N.R.I are, according to tradition, I.N.R.I are the letters that are written above Jesus on the cross. When Jesus died on the cross, tradition says that above him was written I.N.R.I, Jesus Nazarenus Rex Judaeorum, which in Latin means Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Now, during Christian domination in Europe, the Rosicrucians and others had to conceal occult knowledge under the guise of Christianity. So they had to conceal their occult knowledge under the symbolism of Christianity. So the Rosicrucians and alchemists had their own meaning of I.N.R.I. I.N.R.I to them represented Igne natura renovator integra, which means nature is renewed by fire, or that nature is renewed by fire. Igne natura renovator integra. Nature is renewed by fire. So that fire is the great transmuter, that death and from that resurrection occurs. Think of the phoenix who consumes itself in fire and rises up out of the ashes. So that the death of Jesus on the cross and his resurrection was a symbol of alchemical transmutation. If you take the letters of I.N.R.I and take them to their Kabbalistic equivalents, if you look at the Kabbalah, each Hebrew letter means certain things. If you take these letters and take them to their Kabbalistic meaning, I is Yod. Yod represents Virgo. Nun, letter N, Nun, represents the zodiac sign Scorpio. And the Hebrew letter for R, Resh, represents the sun. So that from I.N.R.I, if you take the letters to the Kabbalah, it is Virgo, Scorpio, and the sun, and then Virgo again. The Egyptian equivalent of Virgo the Virgin is Isis. Scorpio is the betrayer and represents death and destruction. Scorpio is equivalent to Apophis, and the sun is Osiris. So in Egyptian mythology, you have Isis, Apophis, and Osiris, which form the name I.A.o, I.a.o, the name of the Gnostic deity. So from I.N.R.I comes Virgo, Scorpio, and the sun. And from that comes Isis, Apophis, and Osiris. I.A.o, I.a.o. Also notice that it goes I.N.R.I, so that it starts back at Virgo. Virgo represents birth, the virgin birth. Apophis, or Scorpio, represents the process of death, and Osiris is resurrection. So it's the process of birth, destruction, and rebirth. Since it returns to the original I, it is the symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent with its tail in its mouth, which represents in eternity, that it is a cycle, that the sun is born, the sun dies in the west, and the sun is reborn again. So that the cycle of transmutation, death, and resurrection is a recurrent thing. So that magically, the occult formula, so that what looks like a Christian thing to the secret societies and to the occultists, I.N.R.I represents Virgo, Scorpio, and the sun, or Isis, Apophis, and Osiris. And so this represents birth, destruction, and resurrection. Now, in the Golden Dawn system of magic and in others, there are certain symbols, certain body gestures that represent these things. The sign of Isis, the morning of Isis, these are symbols used in ceremonial magic. The morning of Isis, with the arm you form an L. The sign of Apophis and Typhon, with your arms you form a V. And the sign of Osiris risen you form an X. So you have L.V.X. L.V.X. In Latin, a lot of times the V represents a U sound, just like the Hebrew letter Vav could be a U sound. So you have Lux, which means light. And the cross is a symbol in ceremonial magic and in the Golden Dawn of light and life. So the cross is a symbol of death and resurrection. It is the symbol of the phoenix. And so hidden under what looks like a Christian thing, I.N.R.I, that it has become an occult cryptogram that represents hidden occult knowledge. So that what looks like a Christian symbol with I.N.R.I could be used by secret societies, could be used by occultists to conceal occult wisdom. That if you take I.N.R.I, it becomes Virgo, Scorpio, and the sun, which then becomes, in its Egyptian mythology, Isis, Apophis, and Osiris. It is the process of birth, destruction, and rebirth. And as I said, it returns to the original I, which shows that it is a repetitive cycle. And it stands for, in Rosicrucian lore, instead of Jesus Nazarenus, Rex Judaeorum, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, that the Rosicrucians used it instead to mean Igne Natura Renovator Integra, that it represents alchemical transmutation of base metals into gold, that it represents the magnum opus, or the great work, into the divine man, or the God-man, or the enlightened figure, which you attain through obtaining occult knowledge and learning the secrets of the mysteries, so that you could obtain the resurrection of the higher self, that you are the phoenix, that you are the base metal which is transmuted into pure philosophical gold. Remember that in alchemy, gold represented the sun. So this is a brief look at the magical formula of I.N.R.I, or what is often referred to as the magical formula of L.V.X, and how you get L.V.X from I.N.R.I, and the name of the Gnostic deity i.a.o. Once again, this is an occult formula that is hidden under the guise of Christianity, and is used to conceal hidden occult knowledge. So that is what that represents. Anyways, thank you for joining me, and once again, this is Taliesin McKnight, and have a great day, y'all.